Should you pair the RTX 4070 Super with the Ryzen 5 7600X CPU to play the latest games at 4K or 1440p resolutions? Well, I've done just that, and I've been using this PC build for over a week, and I'm ready to share my thoughts and experiences with you. If you were to build this PC using parts from Amazon, then it would cost you around $1,400, and all the links are in the description below. Those are smart links, so if you are outside of the US, they will bring you to your local Amazon. Now let's go over the PC parts individually. I'm using the MSI RTX 4070 Super Ventus 2X. That is a 2-fan graphics card. If you want a more silent experience with better cooling, then I suggest you go for the 3-fan version, that's Ventus 3X, or Gaming X Slim, whichever is cheaper. Don't get me wrong, the 2-fan GPU is not loud or anything, it's just more audible, especially with these silent fans. So if you appreciate your PC being as quiet as possible, then I do recommend getting the 3-fan version. For the motherboard, I'm using the MSI B650M Gaming Plus Wi-Fi, but you can use the full-size version, which is just B650 without the M. The result will be the same. I'm using Crucial Memory and SSD, Be Quiet CPU cooler, as well as power supply, and the PC case is Be Quiet as well. This is one of my favorite PC cases to build in, purely because it has everything pre-installed, very easy to set up, 3 fans at the front, 1 fan at the back, and it comes with a fan hub, which also has an RGB controller, so you don't even have to plug in your RGB controller into the motherboard if you don't want to. You can just use a single fan connector to connect that fan hub, and everything will work. Furthermore, I've been using the MSI G321CU 4K 144Hz monitor to play games at 4K using this PC build. Let's start with Ghost of Tsushima at 4K resolution. Here are the graphic settings that I'm using. 4K, DLSS set to balanced, frame generation disabled. And graphics settings are set to very high preset. The only thing I've disabled was depth of field, because I just hate how it works. It blurs a lot of scenes. I don't like that. Furthermore, I've increased field of view to the maximum, which makes the game more demanding. Take a look at those beautiful graphs. Frame time is nice and flat, and frame rate is also consistent. 86 FPS, 89, yeah, sometimes I get over 90 FPS, sometimes around 80. I've played the game like this for over 10 hours now, and it is very enjoyable. DLSS unbalanced at 4K looks glorious. The only reason I do not want to use frame generation at this point in this game is because I've had some issues with it. The game would run okay for could be half an hour, could be 40 minutes, could be 5 minutes. And then for some reason, the FPS would just drop to something like 30, 40, and the performance would just be terrible. I don't know what the problem is, maybe it's some kind of a bug, because this is still a fresh game. This issue could be fixed in future patches, so keep that in mind. And the CPU utilization is at around 20 to 30%. However, in more intense scenes, I've seen it go up to something like 50 or 60. And when we enter an area with a lot more NPCs, then the usage goes up. 40, sometimes 50+%. But it's not an issue. The CPU is handling it like a champ. And the CPU power consumption is under 80 watts. So both CPU and GPU use less than 300 watts of power together. With future in mind, let's have a look at frame generation performance. With the current implementation, you won't be getting that many more frames in this game. We are at 93 FPS right now. Yeah, and the VRAM usage is, well, almost maximum. It's close to 11 gigabytes, so not a lot of memory left to work with. Just a reminder, this graphics card has 12 gigabytes of memory. But this boost is nice to have, especially if you want that 90 FPS experience. And frame generation does look quite nice in this game. I haven't spotted any big problems, like visually. It looks fine. And if you haven't played Ghost of Tsushima yet, then I highly recommend it. I think this is one of the best games I've played in years. If you're interested to see how this game performs on this graphics card at native 4K, so no DLSS, no frame generation, then here it is. 40 plus FPS, close to 50, so it's not too bad. If you want to play this game at native resolution, you absolutely can, if you're okay with this kind of performance. Let's not forget that you can reclaim some of the performance by lowering graphics settings down to high. And that way you'll get 50 plus FPS, and this is a more pleasant experience than on very high at native. I don't see a problem playing the game like this. At 1440p, I think we should go for native resolution, so no upscaling, no frame generation. And graphics settings are set to very high preset. And the experience is indeed quite good. Have a look at that performance. 80 plus FPS, native 1440p, that is quite nice. And the memory usage is just under 8 gigabytes. And we still have plenty of available video memory if we wanted to enable frame generation, so let's do it. Well, let's use it with DLAA. And thanks to frame generation, we are now having a 90 plus FPS experience. The gameplay is quite smooth, and we're using nearly 10 gigabytes of memory. This is not a bad performance to have, especially at native resolution. But if you wanted more, then you could enable DLSS. I usually don't like going below DLSS quality at 1440p, but that's just my personal preference. And there you have it. Proper 100 plus FPS experience. 120 even sometimes, but it is not a proper 120 FPS experience. So, I don't know, maybe in future patches we'll get more performance out of frame generation, and this game can reach that 120 FPS experience consistently. But at the moment, if you are planning to lock your FPS, then you better aim for 90 FPS locked. Let's move on to the next game. Hellblade 2 is a brand new game. I've just downloaded it, and while I haven't experienced it myself yet, let's do it together, because this is the game that uses the latest Unreal Engine 5 technologies. So this could be one of the most technologically advanced games to date. And it sure does look like it. The lighting, the effects, the terrain, everything looks beautiful. And from what I've heard from other people, this opening scene is supposed to be one of the most graphically demanding ones. And that's why I started at DLSS set to balanced at 4K resolution, because I do not think that the 4070 Super can handle this kind of game at 4K native. But we are certainly going to check that in just a little bit. In the meantime, we'll use DLSS Balanced and the global graphics preset set to high, which is the highest. And the fact that we are getting 50 plus FPS in this scene is promising. So, like with the Ghost of Tsushima previously, we still can play this game using the 4070 Super at 4K resolution. How do I... I was stuck there just then for a little while because I had no idea how to climb up that cliff. Yeah, it turns out you have to press F to interact with that ledge. Interesting solution. The game didn't hold my hand even a little bit. It did not give me any advice on how to climb. And look at this storm. Beautiful. DLSS set to balanced looks okay, and we are using nearly 9 gigabytes of video memory, so there is room to use frame generation. And let's do that, because it is available. Let's enable it and have a look. Oh, okay. 70 plus FPS now. So this is very nice. And our memory usage is close to 10 gigabytes now. But check out this experience. It is a proper, consistent 60 plus FPS experience, because as I said, this is a quite demanding scene. Further into the game, there will be less demanding scenes where we'll get 80 plus FPS. But just out of curiosity, let's disable DLSS and frame generation and take a look at how this game performs on the 4070 Super at native 4K resolution using high graphics preset. And it's just as you would expect. 20 plus FPS. Yeah, this is not a playable experience. You definitely need that help of DLSS to run this game properly. Now, let's see if the performance will change dramatically if we use a lower graphics preset. Let's do medium. And now we're getting that cinematic 30 FPS experience. But this is playable right now. If this is a slow-paced game, then some of you may even enjoy this 30 plus FPS experience. I personally do not, so let's see if we can increase that performance by going to low graphics preset. And now we're getting 40 plus FPS experience. This game on low looks quite good. Yeah, I wouldn't call it your normal low settings that we are all used to, where the game looks like absolute garbage. Take a look at this. The character looks nice. All of the fabric on her back looks fine. And the terrain, also fine. Even weather effects, they look okay. I could enjoy this game on low. But why do that when there is DLSS and frame generation to uplift your performance and experience in general? So when I'll be playing this game later on, I'll be using DLSS set to balanced and frame generation enabled, with graphics settings set to high. I expect that will deliver a consistent 60 plus FPS experience, because even in this scene, we're getting close to 80 now. 76, yeah, this is very good. I'll definitely go ahead and play this game like this. And look at the frame time. I'm surprised to see that we're not getting any spikes at all, because let's face it, Unreal Engine is not great when it comes to stutters. But for some reason, I'm not seeing any of the stutters. I've seen some other YouTubers getting stutters, but strange. And here we are on top of the cliff, and still no stutters. I'm surprised. I'm shocked, to be honest with you, that we're not getting any stutters. Maybe there will be some later on in the game, but damn, this is a pretty solid experience. And now let's see what kind of experience we can get at 1440p native resolution. So TSR is on, resolution scale at 100, and graphics preset is set to high. And the performance is still not great. It's 40 plus FPS. It's still better because at 4K we've had 20 plus FPS experience using these graphics settings. And while this is playable, I still prefer having closer to 60 FPS. So let's see if we can achieve that by using DLSS set to quality mode. And indeed, take a look at that, 70 plus FPS. This is good. This is very good. If I were playing this game at 1440p, then this is how I would play it. However, if you wanted even more FPS for some reason, you could enable frame generation. Let's do that. Frame generation on. I'm curious, what kind of FPS will we get? Oh my god, This game really uses frame generation. Take a look at that. We're getting 100 plus FPS. We used to have 70 plus FPS. If only every game could do that. Because remember, in Ghost of Tsushima, it was something like plus 10 FPS coming from frame generation. Yeah, this is great. On a 144Hz monitor, this experience looks brilliant. Very fluid, very nice. And the last graphics settings configuration I want to check is 1440p native and graphics presets set to medium. And we're getting above 60 FPS. So if you wanted to have a native experience in this game, no DLSS upscaling, no frame generation, you absolutely can. However, you will have to use medium graphics preset. In conclusion, I think that the Ryzen 5 7600X is a good pair for the RTX 4070 Super to play games at 1440p as well as at 4K resolutions. Personally, I've had a very good time using this PC build to play my games at 4K resolution, but as you've seen from the testing in this video, 1440p is also a good experience. The only reason why I think you should be getting a better CPU, something like a 7800X 3D, is if you really need it, because as you've seen in this video, you don't need to have that expensive CPU to have a good time. I do have experience with faster CPUs that have more cores, and the only difference I can think of is that any kind of loading that uses the CPU will happen just a little bit more quickly. For example, shader compilations when you enter the game for the first time, or any kind of loading installations, they will happen more quickly. So if you really hate loading screens, then do get a faster CPU. Otherwise, get the Ryzen 5 7600X or 7600, you'll still have a good time. If you're interested in any of the products featured in this video, Amazon links are in the description below, check them out. And if you enjoyed this video, then give it a like, let me know in the comments below what do you think about all this, and subscribe for more if you haven't already. It was I, Vadim. Until next time.